This video is made possible by our sponsors, AJA. We'd like to thank AJA for all their support and tell you to go to aja.com for all your production and post-production needs. Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can learn more at filmmakeru.com or, of course, follow us on Twitter at filmmaker_u. Every week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by colorist Todd Bochner, whose work includes Watchmen, Star Trek Discovery, and Sleepy Hollow, just to name a few. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Hi, Gordon. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. I was wondering if, I want to talk about your choice of colors, or when you're choosing sort of like a color scheme, because what I noticed when I was researching for this interview, there was someone talking about Watchmen's color palette, and they were talking about, they found that originally when they made the comic book, they shied away from certain colors because those were really popular in comic books and they wanted it to be distinctly different. And so did you find something similar when you were working on Watchmen or other shows or movies where people are sort of saying okay, we want to, make it more of these colors to stay away from what's popular, or have certain moments be in a particular color palette?
Well, that's a good question. One of the biggest things was the yellows for the mask, to get the yellows right, and where everything else fell in was kind of how it fell in. We set up a lot of lighting early on with the DP, and I did a lot of testing to make sure it could be really, we wanted to really inky would be the reference to the comic books, which I feel was the verbiage used, and we wanted to be really rich and deep in the shadows, but our yellows needed to be intact for the masks, which was tied in with the titles and whatnot. That was a signature we did there.
Interesting. So, because I always wonder, it's almost like English class, how much does the writer put in on purpose versus how much do we as the viewer interpret? Because when I was researching for this, one person's like, yeah, this is what these colors mean, and this is what that means. And do you guys actually sit down and be like, okay, we want to have this type of meaning behind it? Or are you like, this is going to work because that's the way the scene was shot and it looks right this way?
Well, there are a lot of hidden gems, I'll say, in the whole series. Each episode has something unique to it that were written in, not necessarily color based. There's a lot of theory behind stuff that may date back to the comic book, but a lot of it is, as far as the color, it was just lit beautifully and shot beautifully, and we just took it to the next level. Early on, we did a lot of costume tests to see how everything would fall in different lighting and whatnot. And some of the costumes have color hues to them, which date back to the comic book. But nothing really. It was just every episode was distinctively different. Each one was like its own movie, and the DPs would stress how difficult it was to shoot, because each one, we're in Tulsa in one, we're in Vietnam in another, we're flashback, we're in on another planet for one of the episodes. So everything had its own unique palette, I'll say. Most of it driven by lighting and cinematography. We talked a lot about what was going to happen and what we were going to do, and how it landed was just stunning, and we were able to take it to the next level through color.
I'm going to interrupt this interview for 1 second. We want to thank PixelView, one of our sponsors. They're a streaming solution for filmmakers. PixelView lets you stream your work to remote clients for easy collaboration, and it works with both on-set teams and post-production teams. With built-in video chat, you can discuss and make changes in real time and stream directly from your editing software. Or you can use the hardware encoder to stream from DaVinci Resolve or the camera on set. See the promo code and the link in the video description below. I can understand why the DPs would find that frustrating, but I also feel like that would be more enjoyable from a creative standpoint, because then at least, if you're doing a sitcom, let's say, every show is lit, lights are all set up, we're just going to make sure we're going to do small tweaks. Whereas this, it's I really have to actually create and think behind every episode.
Well, I think it was extremely challenging to do in the amount of time. There's never enough time, especially in TV, I'll say, or streaming, but
Mhm.
and everything we had new sets, had new setups, and it was a challenge that just turned out fantastic, and I'm glad it did.
Now you've worked on Star Trek Discovery. Now, were you a fan of that series beforehand?
I've
Or the
always been a big Star Trek fan through the years. I wouldn't ask me any of the subtleties and stuff that dates back too far, but
yeah.
I'm just a fan. I've always been a fan since the original series, and
So now were
it's
you
fun.
nervous or excited then to get into Star Trek? Because I know someone else who worked on it who was a fan and they were initially excited and then nervous because of like they're like, oh, I'm touching lore. I'm touching.
Well, it's funny you say that. Extremely nervous because you don't want to taint it or do something
Yeah.
wrong. We did a lot of tests, the DPs and I, to see the look we wanted, and it's supposed to have a nice punch to it, cinematic, deep shadows, and rich and fun. I mean, it's a fun series. So I don't think we screwed it up. I mean, everyone seems to like it. So
Mhm.
but yeah, it was definitely a challenge. And what's also challenging is we're always creating new planets and new looks or new, changing foliage depending on the planet we're in, which is a lot of fun. But that's also challenging too. We do have an open palette for that where we can kind of discuss it and say, let's go here. This was written in, or this needs to date back to a prior series, from years back. We do have references for that, and we kind of stick with that.
So what is like like when you're getting onto a show like Star Trek Discovery, how do you get on the same page as the showrunner in terms of creativity? Because I feel like you want to make sure that you're giving them what they want, but you also want a bit of creativity on your end as well.
Well, I remember early on, probably a year before we went to shoot episode one, there was a lot of wardrobe tests going on with all the costumes, everything, and it was a lot of discussion a year out at least, I'll say, just on the way it should look and how it should feel and the tone of it. The DPs, we've we started off here and we've kind of landed in a different place. There's been DPs that have left during the series, so we've kind of that's also a challenge too, to get on the same page as the DPs, because they do come in. Everyone has their own flavor that they want to put to the project, and but we're in the Star Trek Discovery world, so there's a lot of consistency that does stay there. But to answer your question, we a lot of trial and error. We got it into a good place. I mean, I feel we wanted really rich shadows and just cinematic was the word that we went with. And we've, as you can see, as the series goes on, we've changed things here and there. We've tried things, and now I think it's in just such a great place. Just, you're always, one thing I always realize, you're always learning, whether you're
Mhm.
making, say you're coloring and there's a red, you're always learning how to make it better or bolder, or you're always just learning. There's so many tools to toy with on the box. So you do wind up in a new place, just like cinematography. You start out one way and you find a better way to do it or a more efficient way. And we kind of fall into that and streamline it, I'll say.
Now you've worked on some amazing shows. Is there a particular scene or moment in your career that you're really proud of?
That's a good question. There's a lot that I'm really proud of, but
Yeah.
I'll say on my mind, because you brought up Watchmen. I think Watchmen was such a challenge because we were shooting here in Atlanta, we were shooting in the UK simultaneously. That all needed to blend. We had flashbacks, flash forwards, a lot of different looks, and at the end of the day, there's only so many looks
Yeah.
you can do. And I think they all came together really good. But yeah, that was it, because it was just everyone was like a new. What are we gonna do here? Where we have flashback to Vietnam, and we would push the envelope on some stuff, but the cinematography was just stunning. I mean, everyone knew what they were gonna do,
Mhm.
and we kind of, as we got into the grading suite, we took it to the next level and kind of finessed it, put the cherry on top, because it was shot very well. And to be honest, I mean, we did over a month of testing before we started shooting season two. with color palettes and lights and fabrics. And there was a black and white episode, which I'm really proud
Mhm.
of. We did about 3 weeks of testing on that because it was captured in color, but I built a LUT that they can use on set and monitor everything in black and white. Um, Early on, we had got the fabrics and the lighting. They used specific color temperatures, and I was able to adjust that LUT so they could see through it and see, oh, there's red over there, but we have that going black, inky black. So I was able to tone map a lot of the colors. They can visualize it on set, and it transfers to me in the suite, and I could just take it to the next level there. But that way they had a really good idea of what they wanted to see. And, you know, I'm a colorist, that's not color. So that's kind of like, it's black and white, but that was a fun challenge, actually.
I almost feel it because I know you won the award for the Alliance for some work on the Post Alliance for the work on the Watchmen. It would have been kind of a funny joke to just submit the black and white one. Just as
I
like
think I did submit, you know what? I wanted to submit that, but everyone's like, you can't submit that. I'm like, okay. Because it was a lot of work. It's
yeah,
not
yeah,
easy to get true blacks. We look at black and white film and we're like, those are the blacks we want. It's really hard to get,
yeah. Oh yeah,
digitally. And we did what we could to get there, but it's you're just like, oh, you just turn the knob to black and white. So, but it's not that
yeah.
easy to be honest.
Well, and it is similar to my question about Star Trek. Like the Watchmen was, it's like a holy text. Like it's considered one of the best comics ever written. And this was like a Damon Lindelof was taking a huge risk in terms of pushing, or not pushing, but like moving the story forward into the future and telling a completely different story. Were you guys worried about, fans' reaction or anything like that? Or was it sort of like, okay, it's an open canvas with these characters. We can play around.
Honestly, on the writing end, I can't speak for that, but I can say, because it's such a holy comic, I'll say
Mhm.
that it's whenever you change something, sometimes you do upset certain people that are diehards or big fans. So it was when the first trailer, we worked a good amount of time on the first trailer. We had a preview, and then we had a Comic-Con trailer that dropped, and it got really good reviews. But yeah, I think until then you're like, it's amazing, and I love what I see, but you just never know how everyone's going to react to it. And it was very positive
Yeah.
feedback
Well, and
on
it
that.
was for me, it was the reviews that got me because I was like, I
Mm,
don't want to see the show. And then I saw the reviews and I was like, I'll give it a shot. See
yeah,
how it goes. And it was really good.
that's
What
great.
so like have you had a chance, because there's a lot of productions now shooting with virtual production. Have you had a chance to color correct stuff for virtual production?
Well, one of the series you mentioned currently that I'm working on, we do use AR wall for the last couple
Okay.
seasons. So yes, similar to what some of the Disney stuff's doing.
Yeah.
Yes, the AR wall.
So like how, from a colorist perspective, like what's happening in the front end? Because like I talked to the VFX team, and they're building stuff ahead of time that's projected in the back end. So are you coming in ahead of time with LUTs and stuff to color correct that, or do you do that in post?
No, that actually, because you see what you get on set, like
Yeah.
it's really got to be better, like really locked to what you want on set. And the visual effects teams are doing a really good job getting there. I mean, it's fairly new technology, so
Mhm.
it's got ramped into extremely quick. I'm seeing some great stuff off the wall. A lot of times you'll see a lot of the work I'll do on that is, they balance the light from the foreground to the background, and as that gets on, that you just get tighter and tighter ratios in that to get it to look really good. In here, the better they shoot it, the better it comes out, because you can't really isolate. I can't isolate that wall separately because it is burnt into one image now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing and so fast. We've been using it at least 2 seasons now, maybe
Yeah.
3, and it just as I said, you just stuff gets better and better as you learn how it light falls on everything and how brightness levels, and I'm seeing some good stuff.
Well, it's funny because like I have a friend who's working on they're building one right now, and he said like the technology is advancing and moving so quickly. He's like,
Mhm.
we're coding stuff on set to work with the cameras to do this. So, we're 3D printing parts to make things work. So
So cool.
it's kind of like the Wild West.
It's completely the Wild West. That's why I say as you go
Yeah,
on, you're like, well, that didn't work. Let's try this.
yeah,
And I see it get better and better, and especially on some of the big shows that use it exclusively, it's like gotten better and better, and it looks really good. I mean, it does.
yeah,
It feels good. You can get perfect sunsets and perfect sunrises. It just look like you'd have to be out at the crack of dawn to capture that, and
yeah,
it would have to be perfect. And then you
yeah.
can create some perfect stuff.
Now, when I talk to cinematographers, I'm always wondering, like, okay, what do is there a particular artist or particular art movement that you like to turn to for inspiration, uh, just from a creative side? Is there, a particular artist or movement that you like to go to for inspiration?
That's another good question. I really, since I was really young, I've always liked photography, always. And I still shoot a good amount, total hobbyist. A lot of black and white mixed with color, but probably lean more on black and white. I like some of the like classic photographers like Henry Cartier-Bresson, Fan Ho, Elliot Erwitt, like mostly a lot of street photography, a lot of decisive moment, but just seeing how light falls in natural environment because they were out capturing in streets, and how natural light looks to me is just stunning. And we do a lot to create the natural light, and
Hmm.
I think that's like an art on its own, just like how light falls and how it falls with different cameras and sensors and film stocks, and that really interests me. I do turn to a lot of photography books, or I'll try to go to, if anyone has a gallery opening here in LA, I'll go and see some of
Yeah,
the prints because the prints are stunning. I'm still blown away with prints, which is I know it's a dying art, but when you see a good print, you're like, wow.
yeah. Well, we're really lucky because we have it's called the Black Star um, collection here in Toronto, and it's all like as someone who just collected street photography for
Wow.
years, and then they donated it to the city, and it's just they'll put on things, and it's just stunning, the photos. Like you said, the prints. You don't, yeah, it's
Yeah, the
so
prints.
so nice to see a good like crisp blacks in there, and because a lot of them are
Mhm.
black and white. So
Yeah, you get that with black and white. Film especially,
yeah.
it's just it's something it's very hard to achieve.
So do you
Like
shoot
true.
film or digital?
I'm mixed.
Okay.
I'm diehard film, but it gets more expensive. It's harder to find processing. Sometimes the processing isn't good. I guess that's the black arts of film. But
Yeah.
then I do mix digital because, a lot of what I do in the day is shot digitally. So I want to be able to wrap my head around all the imagery.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely different. But film's just, it's got a timeless look to me.
You'll have to start doing darkroom work and developing your own film.
I used to do that. I used to do
Yeah.
a good amount of that. And I was just like, at one point, I'm just like, it took up a lot of time. You really got to
Yeah,
set the
yeah.
time out for it. And just in this zone, you're doing negative, then you're doing prints, and it just does a lot of time.
So I have one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
So something that I've seen multiple times, maybe just to like
Yeah.
put on to see.
Yeah, I would say put on to see. What I've been telling people is, it's a Sunday afternoon, you got nothing to do, and you're flipping around the channels, and there's a movie on. You're like, oh, I'll watch that. Yeah.
You know what? You used to be on a lot, Jaws and The Godfather, and I'd always watch
Ah,
them. They were just on, and I'm like, I have to watch it. And I recently, within the last year, watched the latest remastering of The Godfather
oh yeah,
and was blown away. I just looked at it for just cinematography and lighting, and I was just wow. It'd been a long time since I've seen
yeah.
it, but it's great.
Well, it's I can't remember who it was. I think it was TBS. It would be like a Jaws marathon because they would get the window for so long, and so it'd just be like, we're gonna play Jaws 1, 2, 3, and Revenge on repeat for an entire week, just recoup our costs.
I think
And
that was over the summer. I saw that.
yeah.
But Jaws 1 is the one that
Yeah,
I
exactly.
like.
You mean you don't like it when sharks somehow know where to travel and follow families who've gone across the country?
In 3D?
Yeah, in 3D. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview today.
Pleasure. My pleasure, Gordon. It was
Yeah.
great. I'm excited. You put out some really good content, and I'm excited to be part of it.
Oh, thank you. And that's it for this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com or, of course, on Twitter at filmmaker_u. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching. This video is made possible by our sponsors, AJA. We'd like to thank AJA for all their support and tell you to go to aja.com for all your production and post-production needs.